So today we have met to discuss one very interesting topic, which is should arts and sports be shielded from nationalistic and political agendas? Uh, Recently, we noticed that there was an international cricket tournament where Indian cricket team withdrew from the semi-finals of a match of a tournament because they had to play against the team of Pakistan. Officials cited that it was for national interest and for diplomatic strains, but there was a widespread debate as to whether or not we should keep national identity and politics away from sports and arts. So that being said, this is not just an isolated event, and a lot of times we have seen where arts and sports has been at the brunt of political issues when artists and players have had to face uh, maybe like discrimination, or they have been prohibited from performing in a country where their fans are, but maybe like political situation does not allow for that. So that being said, like maybe I'll take some opening statement from all of you. Like, what do you feel about keeping sports and arts away from political agenda, or should that be okay to express how we feel politically in these two fields? Anybody could start.
I can start.
Yes, possible.
Yeah, I feel that how much on the surface it might look very separate, all the things happening in country. But at the end, everything is connected to the other thing. Like, for example, if let's say we don't have great relations with Pakistan, and if our team goes to Pakistan and they have a match there, then there will always be a lot of security concerns and lot of issues. And if our team faces a problem, then doing some diplomatic stuff and helping them would also be very difficult. So I feel on the surface, art and sports might look very separate than what is happening politically, but I don't think you can always separate it. And secondly, I feel by doing this, the governments try to put some sort of pressure on the other government, because I feel if I don't think Pakistan's what do you call it, Lollywood or something, film industry of Pakistan.
Not sure.
Something like that is the name of Pakistan. I don't think they have that much, money. They put that much money into the artists as much as the Indian film industry does. So I feel the artists here, or the artists from that side would come this side. They'll also get a lot of opportunities. But again, I would say that like I remember Shahid Afridi posted extremely bad things about India on Twitter during the Operation Sindoor and the attacks that were happening. And coming from a border area, and I've seen wars, I've seen the impact of wars. I feel, why is it only the war of us who are living at the borders? Why is it only the war of army people? Why everybody else seems to behave like everything is okay for artists, everything is okay for others, and people like us, or more than us, people in Punj, Rajouri, people in Kargil district, they have to face everything. Every time our schools, our colleges get closed, our highways get closed, our businesses are affected, our children are traumatized, and for everybody else it is just a normal thing, and again they will go back, and again the artist will go and play the songs. So I feel that it is not our war only, everybody should participate if the war is happening. And it I feel it is okay to not, if Indian team has backed out, and I feel they have done it right in a way, because when the war happens, the team from that side, they had all the comments on our country, our army, and everyone. Suddenly we'll start behaving nice, and this, I don't understand how does that work, according to me.
Thank you for that perspective. I'll try to bring the economic side of it. Like when Indian team moved out from the tournament, they gave the reason as nationalistic opinion. But now what's happening is the same Indian team, like the main team, the T20 team of India, they're going to play against Pakistan in an Asia Cup. And now it affects a lot financially, and government of India has allowed for that. Like for multi-nation tournaments, that's okay. So do you see some kind of hypocrisy here? Like when money matters, then yeah, Mahalakshmi.
I'll keep my video off when I speak because no
No
internet.
problem.
Uh, there is a hypocrisy, and I feel like that is true. Like governments always try to do whatever is convenient for them at the moment. But I also really agree with the person who spoke before this. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Um, but yeah, like she was talking about India and Pakistan, and the same is true for many places across the world right now. Like if you see whatever is happening in Palestine, there are a lot of artists and
Mahalakshmi, you got cut off. Uh, Bipin, Aditya, you would like to share your opinions to the opening clause.
I mean, I very much like agree with Kausar. Like it does not have to be just a few people or few जगह का war, but also sadly capitalistic society. तो hypocrisy के साथ साथ ये आएगा. So that is the harsh part of it. Also, in like my thoughts around should we like uh, ban or not, or should we avoid these participating or not? I think it's more around safety. First, is safety. If our players are safe or not, then that's where we can make some um, decisions. And second is the person's consent. If an artist is has a consent ki he wants to perform in a country, then that shouldn't be sidelined. These are the two things that I would like look into. Other than that, हाँ, capitalistic society तो hypocrisy और वो सब दिखेगा, and also a lot of someone has to sacrifice more than others, वो भी होगा mostly.
So when you think of the way the Indian cricket team backed off from the recent tournament in the semi-final match, it was less of security reasons and more of being driven by the recent uh, animosity between the two countries.
Yeah,
Otherwise, when it comes to security of the players, then the BCCI stance is not sending the Indian cricket team to Pakistan. So
yeah,
that is of course valid, but the question was more on the line of like that being like boycotting a game being an evidence of nationalism. Mahalakshmi?
yeah, sorry, I'll just continue, I think, from my
Right, sure,
previous
sure.
point. So what I was saying is, so not just she spoke about the case of India and Pakistan, but not just that, worldwide we see this, right? Like recently we can see a lot of examples of artists and sports people when it comes to whatever is happening in Palestine. Recently, like 2 days ago, I saw where a few um, what was some sport it was, and the Israeli team won the first place, and there are two other national teams that won the second and third place, and the other two teams sort of refused to accept the award at the same time as the Israeli team. So these are all small acts of rebellion, right? So this like she said as well, this is the point that goes to show that you stand with a cause. And it is important because it's ultimately tied to your national identity, right? So if you are, say, as a Indian person refusing to play with Pakistan, that is showing, okay, you as an Indian person value your country and its values, and you are going against whatever Pakistan did. Or so that is a political statement. And yeah, it's inevitably tied to art and sports because yeah, it comes under the same emotional um and like patriotic, all of that. And yeah, even if not patriotism, if you feel like something is wrong and you want to take a stand, and that is a space you are getting. And yeah, it historically been done always, starting from opposing things like racism and sexism, many things, right? So it always happens, and I think that is inevitable.
Okay, thank you, Mahalakshmi. Uh, Aditya,
Hi. So I joined a little late, so I was unable to listen to the entirety of what
you didn't
Ma'am
miss a
shared.
lot. Like, I guess you
Uh,
were just a minute late.
uh, Hopefully. But yeah, I would like to bring in a bit of historical viewpoints here, right? So maybe two or three things. The first thing that every Indian might or may not know, the Flying Sikh. So who gave the name the Flying Sikh to Milka Singh was General Ayub Khan of Pakistan when he was the dictator. It was in 1960, right? It was during this time that India and Pakistan were sharing or bridging the gap through sports and all of these tournaments. In fact, Milkha Singh had to be convinced personally to go to Pakistan to participate because he had the horrors of partition because of which he had that trauma. But despite this bridging of the gap, in fact, entire India knows him as the Flying Sikh. But in 1965, and most of the people might not even know that this name was given by somebody from Pakistan, by the leader of Pakistan, no less. But in 1965, you had the war. And this war was why? Because 1962, we had the Indochina War, which proved inconclusive. They say they won, we say we won, nothing happened, and all that. I'm not bothered with that. But he saw that India had been attacked by China on one front. So he went ahead with 1965. Right? So sports cannot, when you play under a national banner, when you have the name India on your back, you cannot isolate it and say, okay, we are not going to ban it. It is sports. It is not the same as war. Your flag, both of them are under the name of India, right? So that is one thing. Um, the other thing that I would like to point out was 1936, the Olympics of 1936. If anybody remembers, it was hosted
Jesse
by
Owens,
Germany.
Berlin,
Jesse Owens, exactly.
Les Long.
Exactly. That's a very interesting story, Jesse Owens, the story is that Hitler humiliated Jesse Owens and all that. But the actual incident that happened is not that. So on the first day when the German athletes won a lot, so Hitler personally went and congratulated them, and he did not congratulate anybody else. So the Olympic Committee said you are not allowed to do this. You either congratulate everybody or you congratulate no one. And Hitler, being the proud guy that he was, he said, okay, I will not congratulate anybody, right? So it was not just Jesse Owens that he refused to congratulate, he refused to congratulate everybody. Right? In fact, Jesse Owens' treatment back home when he went back to America was far worse than how he was treated in Germany. Right? In fact, there is he was made to race horses just because he won on the Olympics. The kind of degradation that an athlete would face at being told to race horses just because you're black. That's completely different, right? But that is one thing, right? So you had an entire Olympic event, which then bankrolled Germany. Again, I'm not sure how much of those economics then played into the wartime. I don't think it would be very significant. But the fact is, during this Olympics, he had all the anti-Jew propaganda wiped away from Germany only in those routes, like, kind of like North Korea today. You go to North Korea, you're only shown some places, specific places. So
Hmm.
this was what happened to Germany in 1936. Same thing in Sochi, right? Russia, 2012, Sochi Olympics. So
Hmm.
2012, you invade Ukraine, right? The Crimea and everything. And a few months later, you're hosting the Olympics. the recognition that so that basically gives you recognition, right? Even Taiwan and China, Taiwan still doesn't compete under a separate country banner. It competes under the Chinese name as a separate team. So it in the end, it is all linked with nationalistic identity. Everything comes under the banner of identity. Humans have not evolved and they have not matured enough to the point where they can separate these two. Right? I'll close myself with just one more point. So there was something called the football war, if you know about it. So there was an actual war that happened after a football match between El Salvador and Honduras, something somewhere in 1900s. An actual war. Right. Of course, the war was not because of the football match. They had several underlying tensions as well. But the escalation that happened during the football match, right, when the two teams clashed against each other, they went outside the El Honduran hotel to where the Salvadorian team was staying. They tried to picket them and all that. So it eventually led to a war. I think 7 days or 8 days, but a proper war. So sports do matter. I've seen IPL guys, right? RCB versus CSK, Renner. People already blast each other to bits. Just fight. But then, of course, India versus Pakistan, they come on the Indian side. But my point is, in the end, it's all identity. The only way out is if you really want to remove this. So, for example, the previous few Olympics, Russian Federation, right? The athletes have not been competing under the Russian name. They compete independently. They're not allowed to fly the Russian
Mm.
flag. They compete under the Olympic flag, so the five rings. So maybe if you really want to support the sanctity of those people, you don't want to make them the target of the war or your global agenda, let them participate, but participate independently without any notion of your national identity. That might be one way out, as far as I'm concerned.
That really made so much of sense and added so much value to this conversation. We could take this conversation on two lines. One is like to discuss what Kausar ma'am said, how the entire country should participate in the war if at all a situation like that comes. And the second line of thought which I was thinking was to take it towards more intrinsic in nature, as in like not thinking of nationalistic ideas, but where artists have protested for causes which is not nationalistic but other reasons. Which line should we take, like A or B? Any suggestion? B.
I
Okay.
think we've spoken a
So
bit about it, right? So we can go.
yeah, so let's take the second one then. Uh, what do you think about the wrestlers who won the Olympic medals when they discarded their medals into Ganga, I remember, against Brij Bhushan? So that was symbolic in nature and a way of protest. Uh, but how do you, like all of you personally, feel about it? Yes, Qasim.
I feel that most of our sports in India, I guess, except chess, it is kind of plagued with federation politics. You know, so there is a lot of politics going on in the background of every sport. Lot of, and even in, I feel, in BCCI, because most of the money is poured into BCCI, but with the wrestlers and all, so a lot of politics going on and all. So I feel that the reason why they kind of surrendered their medals to Ganga was they realized that even after winning, to get to that level of Olympic and win a medal, the person has to actually go through a lot for such a rigorous sport. So even after sacrificing everything from physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially, I'm sure these players would have sacrificed like anything. Maybe they would have trained from childhood. Even after doing that, they're not getting the life of dignity. They're not getting that importance in the country. They are telling something, saying something, but they're not getting that level of importance. The government did not really heard them properly. So I feel it was more of that kind of a disappointment, that they thought that even after doing so much for the country, even after winning a medal, if they are not getting that level of dignity and importance, what is the point of having the medal? So most of it like that. So I feel this kind of things would have happened, and unfortunately, People with political connections, even after doing such crimes, they are not, nobody's, they're not getting the right kind of punishment.
Makes sense. Any additions to, or maybe like some other perspective on these lines?
I would just like when we said the federation politics, I really love that phrase, right? So that is actually true. But again, what I believe is, in fact, the FIFA, right, or whichever governing body governs international football, it has even sent a suspension notice to Indian Football Federation because we have some rules that do not we do not follow according to the global laws or something, and they do not like it. And again, I agree with that. We have also had Supreme Court cases concerning with cricket boards. Now, the basic issue here is we have politicians running these gangs, right? You see, badminton is amazing. Badminton, you have Gopinath, who is the head coach. So it is because he was actually a sportsman, right? So these people, I think we can understand if you say, BCCI, Jay Shah, what cricket match has he played for to govern BCCI? Now, I understand a sports person might not be an administrator. Maybe Sachin Tendulkar, as an MP, he had an abysmal performance, but as a cricketer, he is wonderful, right? So maybe he's not fit to govern BCCI as the head, but he should have a role. I think sports people should be a very sizable chunk of the administrative body that governs any of these federations. So you can't have the sons of MLAs or MPs running this because, again, it becomes bureaucratic backlog. It all becomes red tapeism. And honestly, seeing what happened in the wrestling field, it becomes sexist. Right? In the end, it all becomes muddled with unnecessary nonsense that will be happening.
So yeah, like freeing our sports infrastructure completely away from politics would be a way forward. Now I would like to drive the discussion towards a more metacognitive, like relating ourselves to some problems, where we will try to put ourselves in shoes of someone and see how we can think. One of them could be this, like imagine when the war was happening, and before that you were an amazing, like a very big fan of Atif Aslam. And when the war happened, all of the Pakistani superstars were like banned in India. If, for example, you hear or listen to Atif Aslam's music in loud and someone comes and tells you, Desh ke Gaddar, like, what are you trying to do? So, what would your opinion be? Do you think like you're doing something wrong when listening to Atif Aslam's music? Anyone, Bipin?
I mean, I would like, हाँ मेरे को नहीं लगेगा भाई कि I'm doing anything wrong because Atif Aslam is a good singer and I like his songs.
Kausar ma'am?
You're giving me now Arnab Goswami vibes. Of
No
course.
problem.
No, of course not. I mean, let us imagine possibility कम है पाकिस्तान में कोई डिजीज का वैक्सीन निकलता तो वो क्या नहीं लेते इंडियंस just because it was made in Pakistan. Of course, there's very less possibility the kind of infrastructure they have. But I feel ऐसे but there are such people, जो ऐसा exist करते हैं ऐसे लोग इस तरह के प्राणी बहुत मैंने देखे हैं अपने लाइफ में. And I know when Delhi riots happened, I remember at least 20 of my Facebook friends asked me to go to Pakistan. I mean, it was very difficult. That was the time when I completely left Twitter. I used to be very active and I liked Twitter, and which is now X. It became my X that time. I stopped using it. So I feel there are extremely weird people exist, and it is being fueled into our minds the way it is. um, so I would not feel at all. I still listen. That time also I've listened to Atif Aslam a lot. अभी भी मैं आतिफ असलम को बहुत सुनती हूँ. It reminds me of my teenage, and I really listen to Coke Studio Pakistan. I don't think that's a problem. Uh, I don't think that there's any such a problem. But we have to, in present times, I don't understand what is the mindset, what has happened to the mindset. Maybe because of the electronic media and the news channels and the very extremely weird news that they put and the hatred that they put in the minds of people. I have myself seen lot of such people and all those things. Though I did leave Pakistani suit वगैरह पहनना छोड़ दिया था मैंने because लेकिन क्योंकि वो मारिया भी and all other designers ये सब आर्मी वालों की wives हैं and their money goes to actual bad causes. ये बहुत research करके
That is like a very genuine cause that you
That
just
seems
said.
rational. That seems
And I
Yeah.
rational if
also
it's funny.
yes,
There's
I'm so
one more
sorry to
question,
interrupt. I also left
Arnab Goswami
Chinese
types
product.
question, which I'll come up with later. Yes,
Yeah,
Kaushal.
I just wanted to add one thing. ये सारा ना चीज पाकिस्तान के साथ ही होता है, but China has also done a lot of damage to us. But I don't know,
Oh,
somehow
हाँ.
India does not promote anti-Chinese sentiments उतना ज्यादा जितना लोग anti-Pakistan sentiments promote करते हैं. Sorry to make it long.
No problem. I think it's about the value that they get, like uh, the energy or the क्या बोलेंगे करेंसी जो बना रहे हैं politicians just by speaking against Pakistan. That's something which really helps their political careers. Aditya.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So here, this is actually one thing that I thought about, right? So when you mention sports and arts and music, what we have to understand is they are completely different fields and they have completely different audiences and uh, impacts, right? For example, before Neeraj Chopra, how many of you followed javelin? None of you, right? So maybe in 2005, even despite an ongoing conflict, if Javed Nadeem and Neeraj Chopra has a javelin fight that time, maybe most of the people might not even have known about it and they might not have batted an eyelid, right? But today, when the conflict happened and Neeraj Chopra had that Neeraj sports thing, right? His event, I forgot the name. He was going to host something, Neeraj Championship something. And he had invited Javed Nadeem and he was then criticized and then he rolled back the invitation for him, right? Arshad Nadeem, sorry, not Javed Nadeem.
हाँ,
Okay,
Arshad
Arshad.
Nadeem.
Now, yeah. So now my point here is that these fields are different, right? For example, when all of you agreed that I would still listen to Atif Aslam, but I might not watch a Pakistani match, Indo-Pakistan match in an ongoing conflict. Why is that? It is simply because of the impact that it has on the audience, right? As sports, it's a hot-blooded event. Sports is a hot-blooded event. But when I listen to Coke Studio, it's more of a calming effect that you have. So you're not, even in a Coke Studio concert, you're not Pakistanis and Indians are not likely to go and bash each other up. There might be a small crowd that will do it, but not the entire crowd will be roused to do it. Right? So I think in the end, it all depends on the art form as well. But of course, it's all graded, right? On a full-blown war, nothing comes through. Whether it is music, whether it is dance, art, nothing comes through. Whether it is sports, right? But maybe small-blown conflicts or these things, sports can be banned. Maybe these lower forms of not lower forms in the sense of respect, but in the sense of audience and impact, right? Maybe they can continue, but sports does not simply because of the impact that it has. Probably that is again, and for the China, wholeheartedly agree. See, you can't do anything there, right? And you risk you're already at $100 billion deficit with China in trade, and you can't risk economic benefits there. You can't. So
Also the phrase,
Thailand must have
हाँ.
also the phrase
I just have
Hindi
3 minutes
bye bye.
left. I'll give a closing question. It is this that imagine that you worked very hard for a, let's say, javelin throw ka competition in an Olympic, and you really wanted to be there at the podium and Tiranga going up and Jana Gana Mana being played, but because of political reasons, you could not participate under the flag of your country. Uh, how would you feel like?
Again, if this is a patriotic sentiment, then my
Patriotic
identity
sentiment.
is much more aligned with Team India than Bipin. So in that sense,
Hmm.
I would actually prefer boycotting it because then that gives me a more valuable sense of patriotism by boycotting it than participating. Because participating will give my individual identity more value than Team India wala identity. that in that case, I would be like, I would boycott it. I think it's more about identity. Singer ka identity is not Team Pakistan. It's Atif Aslam. Just that.
Okay. So I really like got so many amazing perspectives. Like I didn't think that it would be so productive, the discussion that we had. Maybe like each of us could take 10 or 15 seconds and give a closing thoughts, and then we can close the space. Anyone who is ready can go ahead. We have less than a minute, so I'll share my reflection from this. Basically, like the way we opened with how the entire country should participate and come forward, especially in times of crisis like this, that really stood out to me. And during Operation Sindoor, I could see that at least coming alive, and the efforts of all the Indians, irrespective of their religion, region, caste, language, that was appreciated, at least by Indians in the non-mainstream media. So that is something which I felt keeps India united.